On today's episode of the DeRaud-Messinger Show, we're previewing and predicting number 20 Texas versus number 12 Washington. Longhorns fans, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. It's greatly appreciated. As you can tell, if you're watching this right now, the setup is a little bit different. We don't have the technology that our home field advantage usually enables us doing. And I might be recording from a secret lair right now. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We got some game info for you guys, as always. The game is Thursday. Yes, a Thursday, the 29th of December at 8 p.m. Central Time. Dylan, what a cursed time. I'm blaming the West Coast bias there. At the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. The game will be televised on ESPN. And last I checked, Texas is favored by 3.5 points, which, Dylan, if you're a Washington fan, I'm probably getting on and making some bets with that. But, that doesn't say what I'm predicting here. But anyway, doing a scouting report. What do you think about these Huskies?
Well, there's a lot to like, Devon. They have 3 key wins to their season. They had that win against Oregon State, and then as well as Oregon closer to the end of the year, and then Washington State at the end of the year against a team like Washington State that can put up points, and Washington was ultimately able to outscore them like they do to so many teams because, Devon, this is a team that is second in the nation in yards per game, first in pass yards, and most notably, they have the 5th most pass plays called this year. So this is a team that wants to let it rip. They want to let that ball fly, and it's all done by redshirt junior Devon, quarterback Michael Penix Jr. We talk about COVID years all the time. We talk about grandfather years, Devon. He's one of those guys as well. I think he's like 23 or so. And he's also going to be playing next year into his 6th season. And that's the transfer from Indiana. He was marred by a lot of injuries. But Devon, for any Big Ten people out there, there was a stretch there that Indiana played everyone close. They were the former Nebraska level team where no one wanted to play them. And Penix was a good reason why with his talent, but those injuries really set him back. But this is a year where he's finally healthy, and he leads the Pac-12 in pass yards, pass attempts, and pass completions. This is a guy that can put the ball wherever he wants to. And Devon, probably the most crucial part of his game is his ability to improv plays on the fly. It's not that he's faster than anybody else and can run by everybody. It's more so that he's a guy that will make the opposing team's fans basically have their butt clenched the entire time he's running around because he can throw it wherever he wants to go. And with this offense, it's quantity over quality as well, Devon. He will just throw the ball. He does not care.
You're going to talk about quality after a butt joke. Okay, keep on going.
Listen,
I'm going to hold it
in. Listen, for people to know, this is like his game is I don't know. It's not, I don't want to say it's Mahomes, but it's Texas Tech Mahomes-esque in a way in which they just throw the ball and he will throw it to anybody. It does not matter if the receiver is open. He will let it rip and he will test that defense. And it's helped, though, by receivers that can get open and ultimately are just seemingly always open, led by wide receiver Jalen McMillan. Devon, he's got 71 receptions, 1,040 yards, and 8 touchdowns, along with wide receiver Rome Odunze, who has 70 receptions, also 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. And he mostly lines up as the outside receiver. These are guys, Devon, that are seemingly just always open. And the plays they're able to make after the catch are one of the main reasons why this offense is so dynamic. It's very similar to Oklahoma State, in which they can hit you with so many different targets and guys, and ultimately puts pressure on that secondary to be just all over the place and can, ultimately it makes you nervous because at some point it's going to break their way, as well as having a third receiving threat in Jalen Polk, who hovers around that 38 reception mark with 649 yards. But he's dangerous because he is that third threat, Devon, on a team with 2 guys that could be number ones on a lot of other programs. So with this offense, that's kind of that 4-headed monster you got to look for, especially in that passing game, as well as they can sprinkle in that Michigan transfer, Giles Jackson, who can basically beat anybody with his speed and is sprinkled in with those, screen plays on passing downs. And ultimately, Devon, this offensive line as well is a crucial part of it too. Second in the nation in overall sack rate, and with tight ends like Devin Culp, who has about 25 receptions, 237 yards, as well as Jack Westover, who is questionable with concussion. So we'll see if he does play. But with all those threats on offense in that passing game, it's going to be very difficult for Texas to keep up them.
And just talking about the offensive line, I think I could be wrong. Yeah, I believe I saw HornSports, the official Twitter account of Longhorns fans, but I believe they tweeted out that Penix has only been sacked, I think, 7 times this season, which
Something.
is kind of insane. I mean, Longhorns, got a couple of guys like Baron Sorrell that can get to the quarterback, but they haven't necessarily had someone that has been super reliable at doing it. I mean, they haven't had a good, defensive pass rush, Dylan. I can't lie, but it's going to be definitely an interesting challenge there. But yeah, I'm just going to rehash some of the names that you talked about. Michael Penix Jr. How many times do you get, a transfer Dylan quarterback that goes to a school and not only is doing, well, but is leading the nation in passing? Quite
I mean,
insane, in
Norm.
my opinion. And yeah, I love, real appreciation, real deep love for guys that are trying to play 7 years of college football. And I mean,
He,
he's going for
he's Hendon Hooker after dark, Devin.
it. Yeah, I
He's
mean, we love the Huskies, and Sark has that Washington connection as well. But yes, 4,354 passing yards on the year, 29 touchdowns, which seems kind of low just given the amount of yards, but still quite a bit. Texas nowhere touches any of those this season, of course. And then just to touch on those wide receivers Dylan mentioned, and because I want to try to make some pronunciations that Dylan usually is not as good at me on, but he definitely has me, beat on this video. We got Rome Adunze, yes, 6'3", so watch out for size on the outside. 1,088 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. And you got Jalen McMillan, 1,040 yards and 8 receiving touchdowns. I mean, how many teams has Texas played, in recent history that have had 2 guys with 1,000+ receiving yards in one season? As Dylan said, they got, matchup nightmares, everyone on the field. Although Dylan just wanted to mention a Michigan transfer for no reason. I mean,
shout
Dylan, come
out,
on. But
shout out.
Jalen Polk also, yeah, someone that would scare me, especially with Marvion Overshown out. Yes, Overshown is out. I mean, best of luck to him in the NFL, along with Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson, who are, sitting out on this game, Dylan. But Overshown might be a big loss. I know Jalen Ford has stepped up to the plate this year, but Overshown is still a speed guy that can help, cover those threats. And then Dylan, we got to give some loves to the running backs. Starting here, graduate running back Wayne Tulapapa,
Hey,
779 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns, who's splitting backfield time with sophomore Cameron Davis, who has 522 yards and 13 touchdowns. Of course, as we mentioned, Washington is not a run-heavy team this year, but they can run the football if need be. And then defense, Dylan, my go-to stat slash theory is if the team is led by defensively in tackles the safety, it is not a good defense, and that safety doing his work, he's getting the tackles, he's doing a good job doing. Alex Cook, the senior, however, yet again, I'm not a fan of the safeties that lead their team in tackles because that's usually pretty indicative of the defense. But on the flip side, Dylan, I know that is not a fun stat for them. Their pass rush has gotten to guys. They got a senior edge in Jeremiah Martin at 6'4", leads the team with 8.5 sacks, and followed by another edge, Braylon Trice, who's also 6'4". So they got some, twin towers out there with 8 sacks. So definitely something to watch for Quinn Ewers and that offensive line. They've had a little bit more time to get healthy and gel just during these I won't call them off-season practices, but bowl practices. So, I mean, promising there, but Dylan, the defense, I think, although maybe on paper not as great as you would think, I think they might be kind of a stealthy, all right defense. What do you think?
I stealthy is a weird thing to say. Are they stealthy? Not really
Stealthy, not
bad.
really, really bad. And
Maybe.
when I was looking at the NCAA like stat leaders, I know of course we're doing that for offense because we were curious, like, is Washington really the top passing offense in the country? The answer is yes. I mean, I tried to fool myself with that one, but stat checking Devon came in and, kept myself straight. Defensively, though, Dylan, the Washington defense, stat wise, is actually pretty similar to the Longhorns defense. I believe they're just under them in a couple of categories. When I mean just under, just a couple of rankings below. So while people like ourselves might sometimes, playfully trash a defense, Dylan, cough the Huskies here, they're not as bad as maybe some people would
It's
make them out to be.
but it's also that eye test. I mean, they do have a below average run defense, so they're hovering about average when it comes to it. 108.2 rush yards per game, and then also 3.8 yards per attempt on the ground. So it's there, but it also has to do with teams are most likely going to decide to pass on them and go that route, especially with so many injuries in that secondary for the Huskies, as well as they're allowing 241.7 pass yards per game, Devon, and 62.5 completion rate. And on top of that, they're averaging 2.1 pass touchdowns per game, which is 11th in the Pac-12. So you can say that statistically they don't seem as bad as they do, but again, they've lost to teams like Arizona State. They got just thrown all over by UCLA. A lot of teams are able to hang around with them simply because their defense can't stop them. So they're kind of allowing teams to hang in there with those passing attempts in so kind of sort of garbage time games. So it kind of, it plays into Texas's favor in the sense of this offense, even without Bijan and Roshan, there's still a lot of holes on this Washington defense that Texas is going to be able to move the ball on.
Definitely. And while listening to you ponder about life's facts there, good points made. I realized that I did write down, Dylan. Wow, what a magic
That's
act. I
crazy.
did write down Texas total defense 51st in the country, Washington 55th. So yes, pretty close. But as Dylan is saying, if their defense, Washington defense that is, was better this season, they definitely would have, been a little bit higher up in those rankings. But yet again,
Yeah.
I think Washington is kind of a sneaky 12. When I heard about Washington, I wasn't really thinking that they're going to be that highly ranked, but they're there and for good reason. Now, Dylan, X factors. What should we be worried about?
Yeah, I mean, for Washington, their X factors. I mean, it's definitely their run game with Tula Papa and Cameron Davis. Can they get going against a strong defensive line for Texas? Obviously, Overshawn's not going to be out, but there's still linebackers like Jalen Ford, Devon, the guys up front that can shut down this this run game for Washington. And it's a run game that isn't used a lot. It works most of the time because you're not expecting it. You're only leaving three guys in the box and you're daring them to pass the ball because you got to stop Penix, and then they just do a little draw play and Tula Papa gets 15 yards. So that's kind of where their success comes from. But if you're stacking that box, and this offensive line isn't where it is when it comes to the pass game on the running side of the ball. So it's a team you can definitely get pressure when the offensive line goes towards you rather than backing up and just protecting the quarterback. So that's where Texas can do a lot of damage and really make this Washington offense one-dimensional. And when we're looking at it, we're looking at past tests for Washington, Oregon State, similar team, similar stature to Texas when it comes to defense. They held Davis to 55 yards, Tula Papa to 27 on a combined 19 carries. So I don't see a lot of success in the run game for Washington, in the forecast for this game. So that's where it's going to be a game changer. Can this Washington team, especially this tandem of running backs, get over 100 rush yards in this game? More so 125. If they crack 150, they have a very good shot at winning this game. And then with Texas, that popular choice 7, I feel like for X Factor is going to be Jonathan Brooks and Keelan Robinson taking over the duties for Texas in the backfield. But this game's ultimately going to come down to that secondary for Texas going up against McMillan, Odunze, and Polk, and a mixture of Giles Jackson going to mix in a Michigan transfer as well with his speed. So it's going to be a lot for Texas to handle, and you're going to see mostly going into that second half how Texas's conditioning is able to hold up against some receivers that are going to be having you running a track meet all game.
Yeah, I agree. The Texas secondary, of course, going up against the top passing offense in the country in an indoor stadium in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome. It's definitely a perfect recipe for Washington, at least offensively, coming into this game in terms of bowl games. Most of them, if you're lucky to get maybe a Fiesta Bowl, you get to stay inside. But otherwise, you're out there. They're throwing you in the Pinstripes Bowl or they're throwing you at Fenway in the freezing. This for
Quick
the
lane.
Huskies, yeah, just you start shivering right now. It's already cold enough. But I mean, for Washington, yeah, definitely an X factor there for the Texas defense against that Washington O. I will go with the boring choice that Dylan mentioned and almost threw under the bus. I mean, it was kind of disrespectful. Jonathan Brooks, Dylan, I mean, the pride of Hallettsville,
Yeah.
Texas, has
Mhm.
a chance to really, kind of give Sark a little nudge and be like, I know Cedric Baxter, a talented running back out of Florida, is coming in this recruiting class, but I got the goods to take care of business, coach. Sark, of course, knows Brooks quite well, at least his performance on the field, because Brooks has had opportunities this season, not, a ton, but he has shown possibilities. And Keelan Robinson, Dylan also mentioned, probably you'd have to assume has an elevated role here. But Dylan, I mean, running back talk, you can talk about that for days with Bijan and Roshan out. The X factor here, if the Longhorns want to stay in this one, of course, rides on the shoulders of number 3, Quinn Ewers at quarterback. Of course, if you've been paying attention to the Longhorns at all this season, it has been a rough year at that quarterback position, Dylan. There has been glimpses of just amazing awesomeness, and then there's been glimpses of just terribleness. I don't know how to explain it. If you take, for example, the Oklahoma game, Dylan, where Ewers is just, dotting eyes
Yeah.
and just splitting defenders. It was beautiful. But then there's been too many games where they just haven't been able to move the football at all against teams that, as Dylan has mentioned, defensively have not been up to par. They've been kind of Washington-esque, if you will,
Yeah.
Dylan, at least, heading
Yeah.
into the game. But then the game happens and just isn't happening. Ewers, similar to Brooks, get Coach Sark a little nudge. Say, I know you got Arch Manning in the chamber. Take a deep breath. Give me a chance. It's not too late. I hope the fan base hasn't given up on yours, Dylan. I mean, this has been a tough year of ups and downs, but he practically is a true freshman. I know he, graduated high school early, but you will have your ups and downs. But it's just, a little teaser trailer doing for the offseason. It's going to be an interesting offseason. But Ewers,
Yeah.
can he find Xavier Worthy? Xavier Worthy changed jersey numbers, Dylan. Maybe that is what is needed here. Ewers hasn't been able to find Worthy. Maybe it was all about the jersey number. But
Yeah.
danger level, how are you feeling here?
Well, I mean, look good, play good. So you got to change the number, make yourself look better out in the field. Hey, maybe that'll help wonders. But with yours, Devin, it really is getting back to the basics for him. He does great in spurts. He can make any throw he wants to, but it comes down to, and this is what makes or breaks a great quarterback. And he's young. I'm sure he can fix all of these things. Again, these guys, aren't our age, Devin. They haven't gone through the mental anguish that we have. They still have so much life to experience. That's besides the point.
So
That's just
much
a little
joy.
sprinkle in the Ewers bit there. But again, he hasn't been great. And when Texas has needed a win or keep themselves in games, it's been Bijan. And guess who's not playing? Guess who's getting ready to get drafted in the first round and the first pick of many dynasty fantasy leagues, Devin? And that's Bijan Robinson. He's not going to be playing this game, and not Rojan Johnson either. So it's going to be a lot on Ewers' shoulder. We've talked about how this Washington defense not very good against the pass. So the pickings are great for Ewers to have a good game, but again, it's gonna come down to, can he take what the defense gives him, and then that will ultimately allow those deep shots to Whittington and Worthy down the field, and he'll be able to showcase that arm that everyone wants to see. But again, I don't know if I mentioned it, Devin. This danger level is at a 10 for me because of Penix. He's one of the best QBs Texas has faced all year. That's along with Max Duggan, just with that arm talent, with what Penix is able to do in an offense that just caters to his skill set and wants him to throw the ball. They're not just making him into a game manager. They are using the short passing game to then open up the deep ball as well. So they're not a run sets up the pass type of team. They're a pass that's going to set up our pass that is slowly going to kill you throughout the game. And again, past games for Texas, past comparisons, Oklahoma State, their plethora of receivers, very difficult for Texas to cover all of them, as well as just that in the middle of the field is seemingly always open, and these receivers are going to find those soft spots in the defense and just make Texas pay. That's what really makes me nervous. But again, I'm talking about the defense a lot. It is that saving grace of this game for Texas. They're going to win this game. They're going to have to play similar to how Oregon State played, in the sense of you got to get your hands up. You got to make Penix uncomfortable, because the moment he has daylight, he will find an open receiver. And again, the lowest amount of points Washington has scored all year, Devon, was 24 to Oregon State. Now, I like Texas's offense more than I like Oregon State's offense. So if Texas is able to hold Washington to 24, I really like their chances. But I with the way Penix is playing, I really don't see how that's going to be possible for Texas right now.
Yeah, that is very fair. I know Dylan likes to overreact with the danger level. It's a
Not, that's
given.
not an overreaction. What do you mean?
It's a given. A 10, Dylan. I
Oh
mean,
my
they're not
God.
playing Georgia out here. No,
I've been
but
consistent.
that's true. That's true. He has been something of a consistent, just the definition there. But I mean, if there were a time to give a 10, Dylan, this is the final week of the season. I mean, this is the time to do it. But I will still give it a respectful grade. I'm going to go with an 8. The offense deserves a 10, Dylan. The defense, yet again, we're saying maybe like a 6. I'm going with 8, but yet again, if I just wanted to, do a 10 because it's the final game, then you consider it a 10. But I'm going 8 officially. Dylan, prediction. I kind of feel where you're going with this based on the negativity. You're like a cloud on a sunny day for these Longhorn fans watching these videos. What do you saying here?
Okay, it's objectivity. First off, it's looking at the film and seeing that, hey, this thing might be
Film
better
study,
than
Debbie
this
Downer.
thing.
My
Okay,
gosh.
that's not okay. Again, not Debbie Downing. When I do a 10, Devon, and I've been consistent, honestly, I've been pretty good in my picks. I've been consistently pretty good with my danger level
Uh,
10s. I'm just saying, all right, unlike
what does
you, who
that even
seemingly
mean?
cannot stop picking Texas, and we've
That
seen
is,
how that has gone all
we
year.
have gone down together, my friend.
No,
But
we have
yes.
not. No, we have not. Go back, watch the past videos. But beside the point, let's get into the score prediction. I'm picking Washington to win 41-37. Both offenses do have the ability to score, but I trust Penix way more than you. Like, Devon, let's go with, what's going to happen here, a projection possibly, or a theory. Who do you trust more when they're up? Washington or Texas? Let's say Texas is up 24-7 going into the half versus Washington going up 24-7 going into the half. Who do you trust more in this game to hold that lead?
If you don't have Washington based off of the season, I think we both are willing to check you guys into certain places to get evaluated. I mean, I love watching some good old Texas football, Dylan, but yeah, you got to go Washington there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like no matter what, it feels like it's going to be a close game. And ultimately, if Penix is the quarterback with the ball last, I like the chances of Washington putting together a drive and winning this game. And Devin, with those receivers, McMillan and Odunze, they're just always open with their ability to make plays with the ball in hand, yards after catch with that all important yak. It's very difficult for any team, especially Texas, to stop them. And again, from Texas to win this game, they're gonna have to get pressure, get their hands up, disrupt Penix, deflect some balls, and we'll see what happens. But again, without Bijan and Roshan, it's gonna be very difficult. And for Texas, feels like the game plan should be to wear down this Washington defense with a heavy dose of the run game and control the clock. But Devin, this is a bowl game. This is when you let the entire playbook go and you just start throwing the ball and build confidence in your young players going into the season, into next season. So I don't necessarily see that happening from Sark in this game. And if it's going to be a shootout, going to be offenses just throwing the ball all over the place, Washington's arguably the best team at that.
What was the score again?
41-37.
41-37. And Dylan and I talked about it. If Texas is able to keep the scoring down of Washington, of course, if they keep their own scoring down, good luck. But if they keep Washington scoring down, like no duh, their chances are better. But if it's a lower scoring game, advantage Texas, higher scoring Washington. They just have too much firepower. Dylan, I'm not gonna lie. I had like a moment, a dream that just woke me up in the middle of the slumber when I had Washington picked. I was buying some Huskies merch. I was planning, trips to Seattle. I was, just going into the
During this
Jake
time of year, though,
Locker.
this time of year, Seattle.
This time of year, the Jake Locker train. I was really thinking Washington. But then in the middle of the night, I had Sark call to me and he said, Devon, you're gonna make the dumb choice here and pick Texas on your video. And I was like, you're darn right I am.
See, at least I have confidence in my picks, though. Hate my consistency, hate me being a troll in some facet. I'm not questioning my decisions.
If you have confidence in your picks based off this season, I do and need to check you into a hospital as well, my friend. I'll check myself.
I think
but
you're
I'll roll you right
in
there as well. But I mean, yet again, Dylan, I do feel so much more confident in Washington. However, the home field advantage going to work in a little bit. Got the San Antonio. It's going to be 80% orange out there. I don't know why, Dylan. I've talked about the Colt McCoy game against Iowa in the Alamo Bowl. I believe Vince had some sort of similar moment. I don't know if it's the Alamo Bowl, though. I think it was against Michigan in the Rose Bowl where he kind of turned up a notch. But I think he had something else the year before, too. But excuse me if I'm wrong there. But, Dylan, I don't know if, there is a momentum game to be had for either team, but especially Texas here, going from 8 wins to 9 wins in the second year with Sark after what was last year, which is not too pretty. Ewers, I mean, the chance to, right a lot of wrongs from this season. I mean, yet again, I don't think it's a logical pick. The Huskies are 10-2. They've looked good, as Dylan has mentioned, but they haven't looked great necessarily. They've been a sneaky, good all the time, though. And when you're good all the time, Dylan, you get to be the 12th ranked team in the nation. Better than Texas. Yet again, I don't think it's a logical pick, but I'm going Texas winning 34-31. But if high scoring, then Dylan, take it away.
Texas really does need this. I know we're talking about emotional pick here for you, Devon, but again, they really do. Ewers needs to see a ball go in the basket. He needs to win a game in which it kind of falls on his shoulders a little bit, and he leads this team to a victory. And that would really carry over into next season rather than hearing, some smoke, some buzz about Arch Manning just sitting there waiting. Because that's a fancy new toy Texas has, especially in a quarterback with a name like that. If Ewers has similar issues that he doesn't work on in the offseason, you can hear some rumblings about Arch. And that's why a win for Texas in which Ewers is able to just have his way with this Washington defense and see the ball go through the basket, it'll do wonders for this program going into next season.
Certainly. I mean, Ewers in this game, he's going to need his, free throws early on where he's getting his short check down passes, as Dylan's saying. Just see something go through the net for him would be huge. And I think, Dylan, as you're alluding to, I think that definitely warranted for some Arch and Ewers discussions maybe after the season that we're going to have on this channel and, set everybody straight. But yeah, Dylan, I mean, the great thing about this game is it seems like it's going to be a great game, which a lot of Alamo Bowls deliver. This looks like it's going to be one that is going to at least be entertaining. Yet again, Texas fans, get those prayer emojis out on Twitter and, send it everyone's way. And Washington fans, if you have any destinations for me to travel once I am adopted into the Huskies clan, please let me know. But don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, everyone have a great rest of your day. Stay healthy, happy, and enjoy the holidays. See ya.